the doors be opened, que l'on ouvre les portes. Colleagues, we're going to go to statements by members. Statements by members, déclaration de député, the honourable member for Vancouver, Granville.
Mr. Speaker, this May, Canadians mark Asian Heritage Month. And coming from a city like Vancouver, we don't have to look far to understand why that matters. There is no one Asian story in Canada. There are tens of thousands. They are written in many languages, carried through many faiths, shaped by many histories, and lived through families who crossed oceans, built lives from nothing, endured exclusion, and still chose to give this country their labor, their hope, and their children's future. Those of us who grew up in Vancouver know this story well. We know it in the restaurants that feed us, the businesses that raise up our neighborhoods, the music and festivals that fill our streets, the athletes who carry our pride, and the volunteers who show up for community day after day. Asian Canadians didn't simply arrive in Canada. They've helped to build it. They've established communities, preserved culture, and built bonds across differences. This month, Mr. Speaker, we honour that legacy and this commitment not as a footnote to Canadian history, but as a critical story in that history and of Canada's future. I invite all members of
The honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Today is McHappy Day, a day when every purchase at McDonald's helps support families through the Ronald McDonald House Charities. In Alberta, 65% of families live outside a city with a children's hospital, making many must travel far from home and their support networks to access specialized care. In these moments, Ronald McDonald Houses provide a home away from home to families right across Canada. Last year, from Fort McMurray Cold Lake alone, there were 52 families who benefited from Ronald McDonald House stays, each bringing a little more normal and a chance for kids to be kids and families to connect. When a child is seriously ill, families should not have to worry about where they will sleep or where their next meal is going to come from. Ronald McDonald Houses provides comfort, stability, and a place to stay during some of life's most difficult moments. I encourage all Canadians to take part in McHappy Day and help make a meaningful difference for families in need. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Markham-Stouffville.
Mr. Speaker, May is Polish Heritage Month in Canada, and Poland's May 3rd, 1791 Constitution is one of the most important events in Poland's history. It's inspired generations of Poles, helping to keep alive aspirations for independence and democracy. Canada's first recorded Polish immigrant arrived in 1752. And since then, waves of immigration have formed Canada's Polish community that is now 1 million strong in communities from coast to coast to coast. As chair of the Canada-Poland Parliamentary Friendship Group, and with my own Polish roots, I'm proud to say Canada's Polish community is as strong and vibrant as ever. Poland has become Canada's close NATO ally and our largest trading partner in Central and Eastern Europe, and our ties continue to grow. Join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the Polish flag raising on Parliament Hill. Za naszą I waszą wolność. For our freedom and yours.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, in loving memory of my sister-in-law, Marlène Baudouin, an energetic, dedicated woman who loved her family, her husband Yvon, her children Jonathan, Myriam, and Catherine, and her 6 beloved grandchildren, always ready to protect us so we would want for nothing. Marlène leaves us with lasting memories of the care she had for her loved ones. She was the center of our family's attention. Her infectious laughter reminds us of the importance of family gatherings at her home and at the family cottage. She loved us dearly, and we loved her just as much. Her resilience over the past 10 years proved to us what an exceptional woman she was. We miss you already. Rest in peace with the love of the whole family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Ajax.
Mr. Speaker, May is Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, a time for the MS community to come together and raise awareness about this neurological disease. Canadians are wearing carnations today because they're a symbol of hope for the MS community. Everyone's experience with this disease is different. The symptoms, severity, and effectiveness of treatment can vary, which is why the work of MS is so important by MS Canada. Canada has one of the highest rates of multiple sclerosis in the world, with more than 90,000 Canadians living with this disease, including my mother, who has been paralyzed by MS. This is a pivotal moment for Canada to invest in MS research. The latest science provides hope that MS can be prevented in our lifetime. Let's work together to build a stronger future for Canadians with multiple sclerosis.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, I rise today with great pride to mark the 110th anniversary of the 619th Cadet Corps of Beauceville. Since its official founding on September 28, 1915, this unit has left its mark on the history of our community. Over these 110 years, generations of young people have learned discipline, respect, courage, mutual support, and the drive to excel. There are also cherished memories, lasting friendships, proud families, officers, instructors, and volunteers who have given their free time to guide our youth and instill in them a passion for service. Cadet Corps 619 is much more than a youth organization. It is a school of life. It is a pillar of Beauceville. It is a tradition that continues to inspire. I'd like to salute the cadets, alumni, officers, instructors, volunteers, and everyone involved with the Corps who has been there for so many years. Happy 110th anniversary to the Cadet Corps 619 in Beauceville.
The Honourable Member for Canada.
Mr. Speaker, this week Canada staked its claim in the global photonics and semiconductor race. Our government announced the spin-off of the Canadian Photonics Fabrication Centre, North America's only end-to-end pure-play compound semiconductor facility, built on a legacy stretching from Bell Northern Research and Nortel to the globally competitive companies thriving in Canada today. Now it has what it needs to reach its full potential, attracting private investment, growing innovative Canadian SMEs, and fabrication capacity right here in Canada to meet the soaring global demand in AI, quantum, and advanced defense systems. And it will remain what it has always been, a proudly sovereign Canadian asset. I'm grateful to the Canada North Business Association, the National Research Council, and every industry champion who helped make this vision possible. Canada has the talent, the companies, and now is our place to take our lead.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, I have a surprising project to tell you about. Imagine this. No fences, beautiful townhouse-style living, tennis courts, and fishing in the Rideau River over the summertime. No, I'm not talking about a new housing project, Mr. Speaker. I'm talking about jail. A penitentiary, in fact, that houses notorious sex offender and child killer Stephen Ray. That's right, Mr. Speaker. This person was considered so dangerous that police had to follow him around everywhere he went when he was released for just 72 hours. And yet, he lives in a jail without fences, with a little slice of paradise, having comforts like a tennis court, a beautiful kitchen, and all the freedom in the world without fences. So tell me this, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals bungled this up with Bill C-28 in their least restrictive measure. Why is it that somebody who is a child-killing sex offender, needs to be supervised every single minute, can live in a place without fences?
The Honourable Member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Mr. Speaker, May is MS Awareness Month, and Canada has some of the highest rates of MS in the world, with 12 people diagnosed every single day in Canada. This year focuses on the invisible symptoms of MS, which often lead to misunderstandings and barriers. For those who are living with MS, like my wife Kyla, a lot of this has to do with severe fatigue. This is connected with sensory issues, chronic pain like the MS hug, and mental or emotional symptoms. This all goes hand in hand with MS being unpredictable and inconsistent. As an episodic disability, there are a range of symptoms that fluctuate with relapses and flare-ups. Despite these special challenges, the MS community continues to move forward. This month brings an important opportunity to raise awareness and show support for an important cause with the May 50K fundraiser. You can find more information on the MS Canada website. I also want to highlight MS Canada's call for the disability tax credit to be modernized, including updates for the eligibility criteria to better reflect episodic illnesses. Not all disabilities are visible, and just because you can't see them doesn't make them any less worthy of our support.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, as a proud life member of the Belleville Bulldogs Rugby Club, I know firsthand the value of amateur sport in building confidence, discipline, and strong communities. That is why I welcome the spring economic update's generational investment in Canadian sport, $755 million over 5 years and $118 million going forward to strengthen sport funding across Canada. In my recent meeting with representatives from Swimming Canada, Mr. Speaker, they were thrilled with this commitment. CEO Suzanne Pollins called it a meaningful step that will create lasting opportunities for athletes, coaches, and communities across Canada. For Swimming Canada, this funding can help restore and expand initiatives for Olympic funding and Paralympic athletes and address one of the biggest barriers local swim clubs face, access to facilities. This is truly smart public investment, Mr. Speaker. Stronger grassroots sport funding and stronger high-performance pathways from playground to podium. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, despite the illusions and speeches, it's more cost, more carbon taxes, more of the same. In Skeena-Bulkley Valley, gas prices are up to $2 a litre. The Liberals claim that gas prices are due to world oil prices being $100 a barrel. But in 2014, under a Conservative government, gas prices were around 45 cents cheaper, and the price of oil at the time was $100 a barrel. It's Liberal policies that are hurting the hardworking people of Northwest BC. It's high Liberal taxes and our weak dollar because of our weak economy. The loonie is down 20% compared to 2014. When we have a weak dollar, every internationally priced commodity like energy and food costs more. And why is our dollar weak? Because Liberal policies blocking resource development are scaring away investment. The Prime Minister should take our common sense plan to remove all taxes on all gas all year, unblock our oil and gas production, and make Canada affordable and strong.
The honourable member for London West.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the incredible contributions of the Ukrainian community in London, Ontario, in particular the Ukrainian Centre and Ukrainian Canadian Congress of London. As we mark Vishvenka Day, a celebration of heritage, resilience, and identity, we honor not only tradition but action. In London, Ukrainian Canadians have opened their doors, organized support networks, and welcomed families fleeing war with compassion and dignity. They have raised funds, they have sent humanitarian aid, and stood firmly with Ukraine in its fight for freedom. Their work strengthens our community here at home while making a difference abroad. So to all of those involved, to all of our friends, Daria, and many more, thank you for showing us what solidarity truly looks like, and I want to wish you a happy celebration on Vishvenka Day.
Well said.
The honourable member for Saskatoon University.
Imagine if you knew someone that just kept racking up the credit card bill while actively trying to earn less money. This is what the Liberals have spent the last decade doing, as they consistently increase the debt on the national credit card while doing everything they possible to keep the resources in the ground. Of course, governments and people are different. The governments can keep racking up taxes on families. These families are feeling the pain of higher taxes, higher inflation, higher interest costs, and higher stresses on the family budget. Despite the illusion that with this Liberal Prime Minister, it's more costs, more taxes, more debt, more on the national credit card, more of the same, he is just another Liberal. When will this Liberal Prime Minister get serious and end his costly credit card budgeting so Canadians can afford to live?
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for La Prairie at Tatekan. Mr. Speaker, today I have the immense pleasure of welcoming to Parliament's 6th grade students and teachers from Jean 23 School located in La Prairie. They are so curious. They want to learn. They're interested in democracy, and they want to contribute to making Canada a sovereign country. We had a discussion about the work that is done here in this Parliament, bills that have had or will have positive effects on their lives, whether we're talking about the groceries and essentials benefit that will help families, $1,900 a year this year, whether it's the school food program that gives children an opportunity to learn with a full belly, and also training support so that they can get good jobs in the future. Mr. Speaker, let's have faith in the future. One day, one of these youths will be here sitting in my spot, and we'll make sure that this country will remain and become even more just and inclusive.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims to have taken back control of the immigration system, but that's really hard to believe. That's because in the past year, the Prime Minister has allowed the government to let in hundreds of thousands of new non-citizen temporary foreign workers while Canadian kids can't find jobs or a place to rent. They've allowed massive scandalous fraud to run rampant in the non-citizen student visa program. They've turned a blind eye to non-citizens convicted of serious crimes in Canada who are getting sweetheart deals to avoid deportation. They've lost track of millions of non-citizens who have no legal reason to be in Canada, and they're issuing visas to terrorists. The immigration minister told us that she meets with the Prime Minister on a weekly basis to discuss her file. That must mean that she's following his orders. There's no other plausible reason why a minister with this many failures under her belt would still have her job. The reality is that the buck stops with him. He needs to fire her and fix the system and not claim that everything's okay when it isn't.
L'honorable député de Vaudreuil.
The honourable member for Vaudreuil.
It seems the opposition leader finds himself in a jam when yesterday he referred to green eggs and ham. Now, over on this side, we don't think it's a crime to talk about politics in the form of a rhyme. And to tell you the truth, we were starting to fret. Since the leadership review, he's been missing the net. After his brilliant appearance on air with Joe Rogan, he's been unable to land even one catchy slogan. He's often accused of being a Trumper because his policy depth fits on a car bumper. He scores well with bots, the streamers, and trolls, but his numbers are like Trump's when it comes to the polls. So in a gesture of kindness, we'll try to be nice. We'd like to keep him as leader, so here's some advice. Don't try to talk tough or be awkwardly formal. Surrender yourself and just try to act normal.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Prime Minister's trillion-dollar debt means more taxes, more cost, and more of the same. After 11 years of Liberals, Canadians are now paying more on interest on our national debt than the government collects on GST and spends on healthcare. On healthcare, Mr. Speaker. So why won't they follow our Conservative plan to cut all gas taxes for the rest of the year? Is it because they have lost control of their spending, or is it because they simply don't care?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Despite that Conservative leader and his party, best efforts to mislead Canadians about the economy, let's look at some facts.
I just want to. I'm sort of still parsing that phrase, but I just want to remind members that we cannot insinuate that somebody is intentionally misleading the House. And I don't know if that was the case.
That sounds like something.
So the member may continue.
Mr. Speaker, despite that leader and his party's best effort to paint the wrong narrative, the facts are very, very clear. Best net debt to GDP in the G7. Strongest fiscal position in the G7. Second fastest growing economy in the G7. Mr. Speaker, wages are outpacing inflation. Despite the rhetoric on that side, Canadians know our economy is growing. We're going to build economy.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
And you will know what this Liberal government really cares about. They have wasted $750 million on a failed gun grab, $300 million on the prescribed IT scandal, $80 billion on interest, payments for bankers and bondholders, and over $500,000 on the Prime Minister's catering of flights. What was he having? Gold flakes on his cappuccinos? So why won't they cut all taxes on gas for the rest of the year? Is it because they care more about Liberal insiders than everyday Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's been several days, if not weeks, since we asked the Conservatives to table a list of programs that they would like to cut. Things that they label inflationary spending. The possibilities are old age security, the Canada Child Benefit, school food programs, support to our workers, building the country, building major projects and building it strong. Which of these things are inflationary spending in the eyes of the Conservative Party?
The Honourable Member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Once again, the Prime Minister is patting the pockets of consultants, insiders, and elites while Canadians pay the price for his costly credit card budget. The Liberals blew $300 million on prescribed IT with nothing to show for it. They said they were going to axe the facts, but instead they just embraced the waste. And now we learn that the Health Minister paid the Liberal-appointed head of the program $900,000 per year. No wonder they shut down a committee investigation into it. When will the Prime Minister cut the waste, cut the corruption, and look out for ordinary Canadians for a change?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have a new winner. Most empty slogans in one single question. Just won by the member across. The thing they could deliver, the thing that I think Canadians would appreciate, the thing that would add to the substance of this debate is whether he will cut the empty slogans and table that list of things that they think are inflationary spending and that they would cut and deprive Canadians of.
The Honourable Member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Well, we also have a new record, the most hot air from a transport minister. These Liberals rejected Conservative calls to axe all federal taxes on fuel and save Canadians 25 cents a litre at the pumps. But let's look at what the Liberals do have money for. $200 million for a gravel pit, a launch pad, when the only thing these Liberals are sending into the stratosphere is the national debt. So when will this Prime Minister let real Canadians get ahead instead of just Liberal cronies? The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about facts. Mr. Speaker, establishing. Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Let's.
He doesn't get to see it.
Okay. We'll listen to the Minister of National Defence.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, establishing Canadian sovereign space launch capabilities is going to drive billions of dollars in investments. It's going to create good-paying jobs. It's going to increase Canada's sovereignty. It's going to reduce our economy's reliance on the United States. It's going to support a commercial space launch and re-entry industry that could be worth up to $40 billion. This is what we're investing in. What I hear on the other side is what I heard from Harper, slash and burn.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. While Quebecers are cutting back on groceries to make ends meet, we've learned that the Prime Minister has spent $524,000 on food for his plane, Mr. Speaker. How can the Prime Minister still look Canadians in the eyes and talk about inflation when he spends, for just one flight, the equivalent of several years' worth of an average family's income on food, all while driving up their grocery bills with his gas tax, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, let's talk about planes. The Prime Minister this afternoon is in Mirabel to announce the biggest order for airplanes designed, built, and delivered by Canada in the history of our country. It's excellent news for Quebec. It's excellent news for workers in Mirabel. It's excellent news an excellent vote in the confidence of Canada's economy and our workers.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Now, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that this Liberal government is collecting record-high gas taxes and reaping the benefits of oil revenues, but that money seems to be disappearing into the pockets of Liberal insiders instead of easing the financial burden on Canadians, Mr. Speaker. When will this Prime Minister stop treating the national budget like an unlimited credit card? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And she's asked about lightening the financial burden on Canadians. Well, the first thing we did was a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. And then there's the groceries and essentials benefits. And the first payments for that are coming out June 5th. That represents up to $1,800 for 12 million Canadians, among the most vulnerable in this country, Mr. Speaker. But we're not going to stop there. There's dental care. There's the Canada Child Benefit, Mr. Speaker. A 10-cent cut on the price of gas, Mr. Speaker. And when she talks about the Prime Minister's trips, well, 20 trade agreements on 4 continents. That's a trade surplus in March, Mr. Speaker, and as my colleague said, the biggest contract in the for airplanes in the history of the country. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, it's been 1 month today since Donald Trump made his indefensible tariff changes, and Desjardins is showing that Quebecers are paying the price. Quebec is twice as hard hit as other regions. A quarter of our manufactured goods are now affected by these unjust tariffs. The employers of 170,000 Quebecers have been targeted since April 6th. It's therefore Quebecers, first and foremost, who need a wage subsidy to protect jobs and provide relief to businesses. We've been asking this now for a month. When will the government finally take action? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we've just announced timely help for cash flow for that manufacturing sector, these small and medium-sized businesses that are affected by the unjust and unfair tariffs from the American administration. But, Mr. Speaker, good news today. As I've just said, the Prime Minister, as we speak, is in Mirabel today to announce the biggest order for airplanes in the history of Canada. An airplane designed, built here in Canada by Canadians. And we're very, very proud of that. And that is going to help Quebec's economy. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, nobody is going to turn down aid. It's just that it's poorly targeted. Listen to the Federation of Chambers of Commerce, and I quote, "For businesses whose survival is currently at risk, however, this is insufficient." Mr. Speaker, aid measures that abandon those most at risk are not a success, they're a failure. And the businesses that are the most at risk, as Desjardins has shown, are disproportionately based in Quebec. It's Quebecers who are at risk. When will we see a wage subsidy to protect them? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, timely help, $1.5 billion, that's not nothing. That's on top of the aid that we have already provided to the forestry sector and to other industry sectors in Quebec as in the rest of Canada. But, Mr. Speaker, I note the Bloc Québécois' silence about this order of airplanes. The first thing they should have done today is stand up and congratulate this government and Airbus for having gotten that order. The second thing that they should do is support Alto, which is going to help industries and small businesses across Quebec. The Honourable Member for Joliette-Manawan. Mr. Speaker, SMEs threatened with closure by the new tariffs don't need more loans. They need a wage subsidy, and they need direct aid measures that don't add to their debt load. We don't want to be doomsayers, but this crisis is far from over. Businesses are surviving right now thanks to contracts that were signed before the new tariffs came into effect. With the new tariffs, they're no longer competitive. There won't be any new contracts. The current crisis isn't the peak, it's just the beginning of the crisis, and the federal government has to react now. Will they enhance their support measures to protect small businesses? Please. The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We'll always be there to support workers and businesses who've been hit by the illegal and illegitimate Trump government tariffs. And, you know, And $1.5 billion were announced by the industry minister. That's on top of measures that were previously announced specifically to help small and medium-sized businesses and businesses impacted by the tariffs. We will always have their backs, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians were told this Prime Minister was a financial mastermind, but it turns out he is just more of the same. He's simply Justin Trudeau with a better LinkedIn account. He found the government credit card and treated it like a hotel minibar, grabbing whatever he wanted and sticking Canadians with the bill. This Prime Minister acts like the government could spend endlessly without consequence, but it's clear that families are paying the price through higher taxes, higher inflation, higher interest costs, and higher prices for gas, groceries, and housing. So when will this Liberal Prime Minister stop running up the tab so Canadians can afford to live again?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians sent this new Liberal government here to get things done, and that's what we're doing.
Hear, hear.
The Manitobans that I'm talking to want to talk about affordable childcare, grocery rebates, automatic tax filings that remove barriers for northern remote communities, cutting taxes at the pump, and creating a national school food program so children don't go hungry. So I think member opposite needs to stop misinforming Canadians and recognizing what we're actually doing.
Hear, hear. Well said.
The Honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
I wish the minister would come to my riding and talk to people who are sick and tired of the government overreaching and spending more money than they have year over year.
That's right.
The reality is that this Prime Minister is just the same, except he's a sequel. We all know what sequels are. They are worse than the first one. This year, Canadians will spend over $58 billion just to pay interest on our national debt. That's more than the GST brings in and more than the federal government transfers to provinces to deliver health care. So when will this Liberal Prime Minister stop making excuses for higher bills, stop the government bloat, and stop driving up the cost of living for Canadians?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Mr. Speaker, it's extremely important to talk about what we do invest in, and farmers are what we are investing in, Mr. Speaker. We've invested more than $1.5 million towards initiatives that will help farmers and processors. We have the productivity super deduction to boost productivity and encourage innovation, Mr. Speaker. We also recently announced $27 million for Youth Employment and Skills Program, Mr. Speaker. These are important programs that are going to help our farmers and producers and ranchers across the country, and we're going to continue to support them, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister of illusions delivers more of the same. More costs and more carbon taxes because he's just another Liberal. Last week in Oshawa, gas hit $1.89.9, but before these Liberal illusionists start blaming global factors yet again, let's be clear. 12 years ago under Conservatives, when world oil prices were the same, gas in Oshawa was almost 50 cents cheaper. This is a Liberal legacy. So when will the Prime Minister stop delivering illusions and instead deliver and adopt our plan to reduce all the gas tax for the entire year?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
To have to say that if we are focused on illusions, the Conservatives are delusional. I'm thinking about a group therapist that I could refer to them. While Conservatives wail and scream in this House every day and claim to care about affordability, our government is taking tangible measures and steps towards cutting taxes and alleviating the cost of living pressures on Canadians. We've suspended the excise tax on fuel, cut the consumer carbon tax, cut the income tax for 22 million Canadians, capped excise tax on alcohol, cut tax for mineral and critical mineral exploration, cut tax for businesses who invest in our...
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, this member from Whitby can call me delusional, but clearly he is not living in the real world. If global oil prices were the same 12 years ago and Canadians were paying 45 cents less, then clearly that does not explain today's sky-high gas prices. Our gas prices are a made-in-Canada problem driven by the Liberal newly named carbon tax and a weak dollar caused by a weak economy. Right. Will these Liberals take our common sense plan, unblock our oil and gas production, and make Canada affordable and strong at home?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the reason for high gas prices is a war in Iran. The reason for high, don't seem to understand this, basically.
The member may continue. The member may continue.
The Conservatives appear to have omitted the basic fact of why oil prices have spiked, and that is because we have a conflict in the Middle East, in Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz is presently closed, taking 20% of global oil capacity off the market. Canada, for its part, has reduced the price of fuel by reducing taxes by 28 cents over the last year, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Breaking news, Mr. Speaker. Reports say Honda has scrapped plans to build a new $15 billion EV plant in Alliston at the cost of thousands of jobs. This is a direct result of Liberal policies that force Canadian automakers to make cars Canadians don't want. And now they're spending $2.3 billion to fund rebates on foreign-made EVs. With no consumer demand and no Kuzma deal in sight, it's no wonder manufacturers are walking away. Why are Canadian auto workers paying the price for the Liberals' failed auto policies?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that tariffs are affecting the industry globally, but we also know we have a very strong plant in Alliston, 4,100 workers. They recently rolled off their 11th millionth car, making popular CRV and Civic brands. But we also know that we need to be there for our sector, which is why we're investing in workers, we're embracing the sustainable future, and we are attracting new investment, which I'm happy to get into in the supplementary.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
They can't blame market shifts for their own failures. The Liberal government told us for years the future's EVs. They just didn't tell us it was Chinese EVs. The government should be making it cheaper for Canadians to buy cars they want to drive, built by Canadians. Instead, the Liberal policies are killing auto jobs and investment while subsidizing foreign-made electric vehicles like the 49,000 imported from China this year. Will the Liberals admit they are choosing Chinese automakers over Canadian workers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The head of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association on Monday at committee said that the rebate policy was a good policy and that it embraced the full kind of purchases, the kinds of vehicles Canadians want. In terms of EV and other kinds of investments, the good news is there is new investment coming. The PowerCo plant in St. Thomas, the Nexstar facility, which has rolled off 1 million battery cells. We've got new investments in Cambridge, in Oshawa, in Oakville. There are investments in St. Catharines. Investments in our sector are happening with this government support because there is confidence in this industry. It's a coast-to-coast sector with concentration in Southern Ontario, and we will continue to be there for them.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, if this Prime Minister is selling out Canada's auto sector and doubling down on Chinese EVs, I want to know if he'll be riding in one in his motorcade. Experts have called these EVs rolling spy vans designed to feed data back to servers in China. Heck, the Prime Minister called China our greatest security threat. But this government is still shipping 49,000 of them in, while our own automakers are shut out. Why is the Prime Minister compromising our national security and our auto industry to cozy up to Beijing?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
I respect the honourable member, but I am surprised that the opposition continues to run down auto workers in this sector in the midst of a trade war. We just put forward $1.5 billion to support our sector in steel, aluminum, copper, and auto workers. Let me tell you what the Canadian manufacturers and exporters say, quote, a constructive step to help manufacturers and exporters manage through a period of significant economic uncertainty. Canadian steel producers say essential to help pivot and realign businesses to ensure our long-term competitiveness as we navigate a trade war.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, when you say Liberal, you say cost overruns. We already had Curam, which now costs $7 billion after yet another cost overrun in the economic update. And there was Arrivecan, Phoenix, and now we have Prescribe IT. This is software designed by the federal government to meddle in healthcare and prescribe medication. It costs $300 million, almost 8 times more than expected, and that $300 million is for absolutely nothing because no one uses the software and the Liberals are even pulling the plug on it. Mr. Speaker, why, once again, is our money going up in smoke? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me make sure things are clear for my colleague. First of all, the first bit of good news is that it's true that the Prescribe IT program worked well in Quebec. That's the first thing. What you have to know is that this program was, remember to speak through the chair, please. And when I came when I arrived here, when the new government came in, we looked at the program and we saw that the program was not working. And we decided to end it. So that's how we are managing taxpayers' money well. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-la-Matapidia. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are once again abusing their majority, and a majority that they won through floor crossers. This time, they're silencing the opposition on Prescribe IT. This is software designed to interfere with healthcare and prescribe medication. After wasting $300 million, the Liberals are abandoning it because nobody's using it. Yesterday in committee, I tabled a motion asking the Minister of Health to appear and explain this fiasco. The Liberals abused their majority on committee to prevent us from taking a vote. Will the Minister come to committee to explain herself and condemn the censorship of the opposition? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, since I've been Minister of Health in this new government, I think I've already appeared 5 times at the Health Committee. So I have no problem appearing again and sitting down with my honourable colleagues. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent à Kewenrak. Mr. Speaker, let's remember, last year, a banker with an international reputation ran for Prime Minister saying that he was going to respect taxpayers' wallets. But a year later, where are we? The cost of living is very high. Food inflation is the worst in the G7. More taxes, more debt, and more money on the national credit card. So this great banker is just yet another Liberal. When will the Prime Minister realize that it's not by spending money on the national credit card that we're going to make Canadians richer? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's remember last year that his leader presented a budget plan, Mr. Speaker, that included 17 pictures of himself with no numbers that were supported by economists. And that's why Canadians made the wise choice of rejecting the Conservative offer and choosing the serious offer from this Prime Minister and this government. And we're now in the best fiscal position in the G7, second highest growth in the G7, and we're way ahead of the third and fourth. And we're offering support to those who need it. We're building a strong economy. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent à Kewenrak. Well, Mr. Speaker, a year ago, they thought we'd have a budget of $31 billion, and a year later, it's twice as high. It's $65 billion. That's the reality after a year of liberal governance. But worse than that, Mr. Speaker, by 2031, and this is the economic update that says it, there's going to be an extra $1 trillion of debt. And with increased spending, deficits are going to go up as well, Mr. Speaker. Once again, are the Liberals aware that by spending money that we don't have, that's a bill that we're leaving to our children and our grandchildren who are going to pay for their irresponsible management? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what's irresponsible would be to do what my colleague is suggesting and take the dental care program away from 27,000 families in his riding, for example, of Louis Saint-Laurent à Kewenrak. What would be irresponsible would be, while there are turbulence in the world economy, to not build the infrastructure that we need to be competitive in the future, as we're doing in the port of Quebec at Contrecoeur, as we're doing at Nouveau Monde Graphite, to have a strong economy and to make sure that our young people have opportunities in the future. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. In 2024, England established a new fund that it explicitly refused to call a sovereign wealth fund because the fund is financed by debt, exactly like the fund that was announced by the Liberals last week. The Prime Minister should know this. He was advising the British government during that process. So the Liberals are using a term that has proven itself that works and that is appealing, but they're not using the formula that made that term successful. So why are the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister selling a pipe dream when they're continuing to run our country into debt? Are they taking Quebecers for fools? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as we're building Canada strong, as we're building major projects, we obviously want to offer all Canadians the possibility to participate in that project, to participate in what we're doing that's going to create wealth for our men and women across the country, particularly in the specialized trades. And we want to offer increased participation to the entire country in the prosperity that we're creating here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, families in Montmorency-Charlevoix are taking on debt just to put food on the table. Meanwhile, the Liberals, typical Liberals, they have this new fund to create a $25 billion fund. Well, a real sovereign wealth fund is built with wealth by selling and developing our resources to Norway, Saudi Arabia, Singapore. We should take inspiration from those countries. The Prime Minister is borrowing to invest while Canadians are borrowing to put food on the table. How can the Liberals look families in the eye and insist that they are soundly and responsibly managing public money? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, just like other programs, the Canada Growth Fund, for instance, there is Indigenous participation in our projects. We have the Infrastructure Bank. We want to have the tools to develop and build a new Canadian economy. That economy will give people opportunities, job opportunities, but also opportunities for us all to create wealth in Canada for Canadians, and that is exactly what we're doing with the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the national credit card is maxed out like never before with a $1 billion bill that our children and grandchildren will have to pay off. That is $1 billion on the backs of future generations. Mr. Speaker, today families are footing the bill for Liberal structural deficit with higher taxes, higher inflation, higher interest costs, and higher prices for all goods. When will this Liberal Prime Minister put an end to his credit card budgets so that Canadian families can make ends meet? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for the question. That is not true. We are building a strong Canadian economy. We're doing so through trade deals with countries around the world. We struck a deal with Indonesia last year, for example. We have a deal with Indo-Pacific countries, and at ASEAN 2026, we will continue to build our economy through agreements and deals like those. Here's my question, though. Why won't the Conservatives vote with us to support Canadians?
Honourable Member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Mr. Speaker, the seniors in our country are the very people who built the communities we live in today, who raised families, strengthened our economy, and shaped the Canada we are so proud of. They deserve to age with dignity, security, and peace of mind. In Pickering, Brooklyn, our seniors are concerned about the affordability and ensuring they receive the benefits they rely on. Can the Secretary of State update Canadians on how our government is supporting seniors and protecting them from financial vulnerability?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Pickering, Brooklyn, for the great work she does in her riding and for recognizing the contributions for seniors across this country. Canada's new government is committed to ensuring
Not from the top, no. No. Once it quiets down, the member may continue. No. Okay. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions may continue.
Mr. Speaker, we have so many members on this side, it's hard to keep track of where everyone is. But I want to thank the member from Pickering, Brooklyn, for the great work she does and for recognizing seniors across this country. Canada's new government is committed to ensuring that seniors age with dignity. We're going to make it easier for seniors who access benefits they're entitled to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. Albert Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals refused to come clean about $200 million tax dollars that they handed a six-person company of Liberal insiders to lease a so-called spaceport that is really nothing more than a gravel pit. $200 million tax dollars to a company that doesn't even own the land, that leases the land from the province of Nova Scotia for less than $20,000 a year. If taxpayers are not being ripped off, then why won't the Liberals release all of the documents surrounding this shady lease?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, once again, establishing Canadian sovereign space launch capabilities is going to drive billions of dollars in investments. It's going to create good-paying jobs. It's going to increase Canada's sovereignty. It's going to reduce our reliance on the United States. It's going to support a commercial space launch and re-entry industry that could be worth up to $40 billion. European countries are lining up to work with us, Mr. Speaker. This is what we're investing in. I'm not sure what they're up to at all.
The honourable member for St. Albert Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, there's more. The company's 2025 financial statements reported a comprehensive loss of $47 million and revenue of under $15,000. Wow. In other words, the company was nearly bankrupt until the Liberals came to the rescue and handed them $200 million tax dollars to lease land taxpayers already own. Isn't the reason the Liberals won't release the documents because it's just one big scam in which Liberal insiders are getting rich?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it never ceases to amaze me how opposed the Conservatives are to jobs in Nova Scotia. We have an opportunity to establish a new industry. The facility to which he points has had 2 test launches that sent Rogan beyond a 100-kilometer threshold. We are breaking into a new industry in rural Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, I ran for office to help create good opportunities in modern industry to deliver good-paying jobs for my friends, my neighbours, and fellow residents of the province. If the Conservatives continue to oppose jobs in my home province, they're going to continue to have 0 seats in Nova Scotia for quite some time.
The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals gave Canada Health Infoway $300 million for Prescribe IT, a program they promised that would replace fax machines for prescription drugs. Instead, less than 5% of the prescriptions went through the program, and Prescribe IT is now being quietly shut down with no results. Canadians still don't know where their money went. Yesterday at Health Committee, the chair of Canada Health Infoway revealed that the health minister never once raised concerns about Prescribe IT. Really? Why did the Liberal minister allow $300 million to be burned without saying a word?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat this once again. The prescription program was deployed in 2017 by the previous government after consultation with provinces and territories. When we formed government last year, we assessed the program. We noted there was not a lot of uptake, so we shut down the program. Those are the facts. We are saving money for Canadians.
Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Canadians need answers on how the Liberals burned $300 million on their failed Prescribe IT program. Money that could have been spent on other healthcare needs. Right. Just last week, the Liberals moved to shut off the cameras at Health Committee, sealing the records of that meeting for 30 years. Wow. And yesterday, the Liberals shut down the Health Committee to prevent the minister from testifying. Why is the Liberals' $300 million prescribed IT failure being hidden from Canadians?
The Honourable Health Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat once again to my colleague that this program was implemented in 2017 with provinces and territories. Indeed, the program did not work as intended, so when I became minister last year, we looked into the program. We saw that there wasn't much uptake, so we cut the program to save Canadians money.
Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals gave $300 million to Canada Health Infoway to build Prescribe IT, which the minister now acknowledges was a total failure. But here's the problem. The board of Canada Health Infoway only fired their $1 million CEO after Conservatives raised these failures at Health Committee. So how much more money does the health minister plan to give this very badly run organization this year? Just the number of dollars, please.
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The first thing I'd like to tell the colleague is that, yes, he is right that the CEO's behavior, the CEO of Infoway, was totally unacceptable. I talked to the board of directors, and they took the necessary measures, and we're working on a governance plan. This year, Infoway will get $50 million, and that is in the public accounts of the Department of Health. So you have access to that information. Thank you. Please address the chair. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians watched a police stage performance last week from the Prime Minister responding to a simple question on private property rights from another Liberal MP. They could not even pretend to care. The fact remains, this Liberal government issued a litigation directive instructing federal lawyers to avoid protecting arguments for private property rights. That directive remains posted on this Liberal government's website today.
That is true.
Is this directive still government policy? And if so, will the Prime Minister withdraw it? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Preserving the certainty and stability of private property is of the utmost importance, and that's why we advance all viable legal arguments to protect private property. We disagree with the BC Supreme Court's ruling, and that's why we appealed it back in September. We're fully committed to ensuring stability, certainty, and confidence for Canadians who own property while we advance reconciliation. We will continue to pursue this matter where it belongs, in the courts, not on the floor of the House of Commons.
Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
The Liberal government directed its lawyers not to argue for property rights in the Cowichan case. The judge then ruled that private property was defective and invalid. Canada must pursue reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, but these decisions are moving in the wrong direction. Canadians need the certainty that comes with knowing that their homes and property are theirs. Yes. With appeals and other court cases coming, why is this Liberal Prime Minister telling his lawyers not to defend private property?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, as my honourable colleague well knows, this government believes in private property rights and does not view them to be mutually exclusive to the notion that we can reconcile our challenging history with Indigenous peoples who call these lands home. We have been advocating for the court to notify private property owners in this case since 2017. We have more recently supported the application by Montrose to be able to advance arguments to protect private property interests. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, we have made arguments to defend fee simple insofar as it impacts the federal government. We will defend private property rights. We will advance a path to reconciliation. We can do both at the same time.
Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
The Cowichan land decision and the Liberal Musqueam agreement signed secretly and outside the treaty process has resulted in economic uncertainty, falling property values, and unsettling division among British Columbians, especially on Vancouver Island. We need truth and reconciliation. The Prime Minister is failing to deliver either. He is clearly unaware that by handcuffing the government lawyers, in the BC Appeals Court. He has now legally handcuffed them in the Supreme Court. When will the Prime Minister explain his plan to protect private property rights now that the government lawyers cannot use the private property argument in court?
Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
I think it's important that everybody remembers the recently signed Musqueam agreements do not affect private property. The agreements recognize Musqueam's constitutionally protected Aboriginal rights in the specific areas of fisheries, stewardship, and marine emergency management, while establishing a clear framework for collaboration between the First Nation and Canada. These agreements respect the rights of Indigenous peoples and establish how Canada and the First Nation should engage so we get our issues out of the courts, increase certainty for Indigenous communities, businesses, and all Canadians. I encourage the member opposite to read the agreement.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack-Cook.
British Columbians bought their homes, paid their mortgages, and played by the rules, but due to the Cowichan decision, they now face uncertainty as to whether their private property will be protected going forward. And instead of arguing in favour of those rights in the Cowichan case, this Liberal government told federal lawyers not to defend those rights through Litigation Directive number 14, a directive that is still active to this day. How can British Columbians believe that this Liberal Prime Minister will stand up for their private property rights when his government guidelines are telling his lawyers to stand down?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear about what the facts are. The facts are the Prime Minister has stood and said very clearly our government is going to protect private property rights. Let's be clear about the facts. We have said we are appealing the decision, which we are. Let's also be clear, Mr. Speaker, that the fear-mongering, the misinformation that is coming from the other side of the House is causing uncertainty in British Columbia, not what the facts on the ground say. The facts on the ground say, Mr. Speaker, we are defending private property rights. The opposition is trying to drive uncertainty and driving problems in the housing market in British Columbia.
L'honorable député de Madawaska.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, for over 100 years, ACFAS, the Francophone Association for Knowledge, has been contributing to progress and supporting research, innovation, and science in French. At their annual convention next week in Trois-Rivières, there will be 260 seminars. They will showcase the diversity of science in French during the largest multidisciplinary scientific gathering of Canada and Quebec's francophonie. Can the Minister tell us about what our government is doing to support the creation and dissemination of scientific knowledge in French? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for Madawaska-Restigouche for his excellent question and his excellent work. Like him, I greatly appreciate ACFAS, which fulfills a critical mission, promoting science and research in French, which is a top priority for our government. In April, we announced $1 million for research in French in Canada. We are also currently looking into the recommendations of the Advisory Council on Research in French as part of the Action Plan for Official Languages, and we will publish a report on that. We are very proud of what Francophone scientists accomplish, Mr. Speaker.
Canadian farmers expect the government to defend them at the negotiation table, not leave them behind. Yet the Liberals constantly fail farmers in trade disputes. Canadian beef and pork exports to Europe and the United Kingdom dropped to 0 last year. And yet they're rushing into a Mercosur agreement despite the risk to Canadian cattle, pork, and poultry. Mercosur countries do not meet our standards on animal health, food safety, or the environment. So why are the Liberals rushing into to sign an agreement that puts our food security, our food safety, and Canadian farmers at risk?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, we are engaged in active negotiations throughout the world to create more opportunities for Canadians, to create more good-paying jobs for our farmers and for our industries across. Speaker, that includes a negotiating agreement with Mercosur, which is the 5th largest trading bloc in the world, with a GDP of somewhere between $3 to $3.5 trillion. But in that process, Speaker, we're working with farmers, we're working with industries, we're working with stakeholders. Just today, I met with Canadian Cattle Association. The Minister met with them last week. We're working together to make sure that we create good-paying jobs for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, the Bruce and Grey County beef farmers have publicly expressed concerns about the ongoing negotiations with Mercosur. Quote, this just won't hurt farmers, it will weaken rural communities and reduce Canada's ability to produce its own food. In Ontario, where most imported beef enters the market, the impact on local farmers would be severe, unquote. Canadian beef producers are waiting to get more access in markets across the world. Shouldn't the Liberal government be prioritizing export market access abroad instead of displacing the Canadian cattle industry at home?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Because this is precisely what we're doing. We're living in uncertain times, and our focus is to create more opportunities for Canadian businesses, including our hardworking farmers, to be able to export around the world. In fact, if you talk to farmers, they're very excited about the opportunities we're creating for them in India, in China, in Philippines, and other ASEAN countries, including places like Mercosur. But Speaker, we are working closely with our farmers, we're working closely with our industries, we're listening to their views, and our negotiations will reflect the needs of Canadians so that we can create good paying jobs for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian cattle producers are among the very best in the entire world. Our ranchers have built world-class beef genetics through generations of hard work, strict animal health standards, and some of the most rigorous traceability requirements anywhere on Earth. Now the Liberals are considering a Mercosur trade deal that could open the floodgates to beef imports from countries where far lower standards and production costs. Why are these Liberals willing to sacrifice our Canadian ranchers and undermine our domestic food industry? Will the Minister commit today to protecting Canadian cattle producers and exempt agriculture from any Mercosur trade deal?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Opportunities for Canadians and Canadian farmers around the world. Let's look at China. Let's look at Mexico, for example, where we are continuing to stand with Canadian farmers. At the same time, we are unlocking trade agreements and investment directly into Canada around the world, negotiating and concluding over 20 trade agreements over the past 6 months, over 4 continents. Mr. Speaker, one thing that would advantage Canadians is if the opposition actually recognized that we're standing for the Canadian.
The Honourable Member for Acadie Annapolis.
Mr. Speaker, my riding is proudly home to the largest lobster fishery in Canada, which creates thousands of good-paying jobs throughout Acadie Annapolis. Our harvesters need safe and secure small craft harbors in order for their product to make it to markets. Can the Minister of Fisheries tell me how the spring economic update will affect seafood producers?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
I want to thank my colleague for his excellent question and his tireless advocacy. Small craft harbors are vital to the fisheries and vital to our coastal communities. And that's why the spring economic update had almost $1 billion in there to help support small craft harbors. This will see our harbors maintained and our fisheries.
Okay, there's another question period going on here.
Say it louder, Snoop. You got money. You got money. I'm delivering for my constituents.
There. We're almost there. We're almost there.
You still there, Frank? You're still there,
Okay.
Still there.
We're almost at the end. I can see it. Okay. Okay. Let's try and do this. Let's try and get across the goal line. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. I'll give her a little bit of extra time, given the brouhaha.
Fisheries infrastructure to ensure that our community stays strong. Mr. Speaker, we are building Canada and our coastal communities strong.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims that he's taken back control of the immigration system, but that's kind of hard to believe. In the past year, his government has let in hundreds of thousands of new temporary foreign workers while Canadians can't find jobs. They have no way of tracking if millions of non-citizens on expired or expiring visas will leave. And now they're issuing visas to terrorists. And every time the minister speaks, somehow she manages to make things worse. Why hasn't the Prime Minister fired her?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Personal attacks, as I've shared with the House before, Mr. Speaker, and yourself, speak for themselves. What do we see on this side of the House? We're working for Canadians, putting in place the platform that every single Liberal MP ran on. It's being executed now. A decline in the number of temporary residents, a decline in the number of people seeking asylum, working towards and improving the international student system, a 70% decline in the number of student permits issued since 2004, an entry and exit system that is being strengthened in partnership with the CBSA. I could go on, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to be serious. They can continue to play games.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Speaker, legal experts just confirmed what New Democrats have been warning for months. Alberta's private healthcare law violates the Canada Health Act. Danielle Smith's two-tier scheme lets wealthy patients pay to jump the line while everyone else waits longer. This breaks a core principle of public health care. Access must be based on need, not ability to pay. Upholding this value is the federal government's job, but the Liberals have refused to do it. Why is this Prime Minister doing nothing while Conservatives dismantle public health care?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Health Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's news, because thus far I've spoken with the Alberta Health Minister just last week, in fact, and regulations have not been implemented, and our two health departments are working together. So for now, we cannot say that Alberta is not following the Canada Health Act. The Alberta Health Minister gave me permission to say that she wants to continue to comply with the Canada Health Act. Thank you. That concludes question period.
Point of order. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At 6:35 on the radio station, I referred to the Airbus decision. I would like the minister to be sent to Centre Block to visit the facilities there. It being 3:15, the House will now proceed. Another point of order. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, during the question period, in response to a question from the Bloc Québécois, the Government House Leader referred to the absence of the Prime Minister. I think perhaps he should be reminded of the rules in here, or he should be deprived of dessert when he does go to Centre Block for a visit. Honestly, says the Speaker, I don't recall. Of course, one should never point to the absence of any member in this House. It being 3:15, the House will now proceed to the deferred recorded divisions on the member for Juliette Manawan's opposition motion.
La suivante, Monsieur Sainte-Marie.
Mr. Sainte-Marie, seconded by Mr. Brunet-Duceppe, moved that the House condemn the imposition. May I dispense? May I dispense? No? All right. Condemn the imposition of new United States tariffs that came into force on April 6, 2026, as contrary to the principles of free trade. B, note that the application of additional tariffs on the full value of products containing steel, aluminum, or copper is affecting a growing number of businesses, particularly SMEs. C, express concern that this new trade environment will have irreparable effects on our manufacturing sector and the jobs that depend on it. And D, call on the government to take all necessary measures without delay to mitigate the impact of these unjustified tariffs, including providing